All right, check 1 2. Hey everybody, sorry for the wait. Just a little busy over here. All right, and we're live. There we go. Welcome. It's been a while. It's been like a good 2 weeks, I think. And I think a lot of people are busy. So don't seem to have nearly the same amount of people showing up this time as we have others. I don't know. Unless my stories on Instagram musings have turned some people off, but that's okay. Um, yeah, so if anyone has any questions for me as far as processes, best practices, anything in that department, let me know. I'm going to open up PureRef here to bring up some images I was using before for reference. So you guys probably won't be able to see this. It's off screen, but I'll just show you quick. This is PureRef. Great image referencing program, which I'm using right now. I know a lot of people out there use it already, but I'm still fresh to it. So if I fumble with it, please forgive me. Might take me a minute, but yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, just gonna keep on going. Load up the cameras I have saved here. So with that blurriness back there, like just the grain of the film, like how exactly the angle of his corner of his mouth is. So just kind of guessing, but I feel like the curve down is a little bit too much. So I'm just gonna mess with that. So I just put on some tunes for myself. Sorry, I can't really stream them for you because copyright. But you know, how's everybody doing today? Good. The usual. We're just getting by, trying to enjoy life outdoors whenever we can. been trying to get out more on a regular basis, but then I kind of neglect things I got to do around the apartment, around my place. So trying to find that balance, you know, but kind of feels like if I'm missing some of that or a little off balance, it's okay because we've got to all be a little bit more forgiving to ourselves, I think, when we get a little harsh on perfectionism and trying to be just the right way in every single habit of life. It's good to get out and just socialize a bit more and just trying to reconnect with people and enjoying socializing again and getting out and getting some sun. I often love switching my switching my smooth brush to stronger smooth immediately, so or smooth stronger, so that when I'm working on dense meshes like this and I want to smooth at this level, I can without it being too much of a problem. But I also probably bring it down from 100 so it doesn't go, you know, crazy strong. So that's a bit more of a normal setting at times, so I can fine tune areas that I want smooth without going too far. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is it's a scan they did of Keanu for Cyberpunk. So this is a highly triangulated and then subdivided version of that. So it's definitely a more smoothed out version of his face, of course. Smoother than what we do for film, obviously. But still, you know, the volume is there, the shape is there, it's correct. It's him, obviously. So just look back at this for some reference as well, because can't get much better than the man himself. Just hating how the mesh here is pulling to the side there a little bit. I almost feel like what I should do is kind of push these edge loops inward, slide all these edge loops over a little bit. Give me 1 second. I forgot to turn on the fan in here, and already the computer's heating up. There we go. All right. So yeah, just thinking through some of the challenges of any face. It's like here, these polygons are going diagonally across there, and that's what's causing this. See a slight kind of bulging here instead of it continuing the line very cleanly. So I think that's probably what I'll do, and I'll just bite the bullet and have to redo some of that a little bit. It's okay. We'll do it live. Sorry, my dog's looking for some water. Here you go, buddy. Got an old corgi down here who's he's like licking his bowl, being like, "Where's the water?" Yeah, so we want to smooth this out a bit, and then just conform these edge loops around to closer to the corner of the mouth. Just purely just a topological rearrangement. Just want to get back to the same form we had before, but want these edge loops to help us. And that's something that's always good practice too, and it's something I should have looked at really earlier, but it's just sort of sculpting freehand. I really wasn't thinking about the flow when I was doing this, but normally, of course, if I was doing this for production or something else, I'll probably be a little bit more mindful, but I was just kind of having fun, and also probably, I'm sure, distracted by chatting with people when I was working on this area specifically, or just not paying that much attention. So now this will look a lot better in a short while here as we compress all this to be a little bit more in line with where it should be. Probably to do the same thing over here, I think. So yeah, it kind of has a little bit of that, bit of a wonkiness right there too. You know, that's something I wish we had, which was like a tool that would let you roll edge loops over a surface without deforming the surface. So it would almost like create a proxy mesh sort of or something. I don't know how it would work exactly code-wise, but it would have to like maintain the exact volume, but it would just let you slide the edge loops over that volume without altering it. Because it sort of feels like when you do that, like here, I'll give an example of almost what I want, but it's not quite. So if I want to take this edge loop and just roll it, it won't conform to the surface that's there already. It'll like naturally deform it, which I mean I understand because like, you know, it's taking what is forming the surface and editing it, but it would almost be like you want to create, you know, it's what I want to do this properly here would be like to duplicate the model and then move the edge loops and then Z project everything back, and it's a lot of steps. So it makes more, it's just easier to just use a move brush and then just sort of resculpt like stuff a little bit, I guess. But yeah. But anyway, so you'd want to select a Z modeler brush, and maybe what I should have done was duplicated this beforehand. And actually, I could still do that now, I guess. I could just, yeah. So I actually kind of just sort of help myself with this in a sense. I can load in the previous save, which I just started with here. And so let's call this something else really quick. Let's call this base for projection. I come back to my current one and then just load that, insert that right underneath there. So go to insert, load in that. And so I can still use that as a projection now. So it's so close to where it was before, and I want to get it back there, that this will work for that. But I still want to move the edge loops. So what I would love to do would be able to, ideally, in my dream world of ZBrush, would be able to take this edge loop and say go over here to Move brush radius, I guess, and just pull this like I'm going to right now, and have it not deform this. See how it's you know what I mean? So it'd have it conform with this so low. I guess it's not showing it as drastically, but still, it would just be cool if it would just flow along the surface. So anyway, that's what I'm wanting to do, and this kind of does it, but it's still like, you know, this is not that dramatic of a. Obviously, this shape is not that. It's not that deformed really, so it's not going to create a dramatic um, difference. But still, I think it would be cool to be able to just roll edge loops around a surface to get them where you want, instead of having to push them all there and then it deforms everything and then you have to reshape it all to there. You know, this would just be cool if we could just slide the edge loops around a surface, like it would suspend everything, let you slide them around and then reinitiate it, and then it would just maintain the same shape as best it could with the edge loops where they are now. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I don't know, something I should probably throw out to a fair, I guess, a little bit more deliberately, and see if he might have a solution, because I feel like there almost is like a built-in structure for that to work here already, and they just haven't really had any requests to perhaps implement that. But I think that would actually be really handy, especially for things like this with faces and needing just to place certain edge loops that are already there in very specific locations. But anyway, who knows? Seems like it probably could be implemented pretty easily, I think. Anyway, all right, that wasn't so painful. So we'll slide this way back up. So I'll do that in a second. So let's see, this is like that. Yeah, so see, it held the higher res there. So it sort of shifted that whole fold forward. So I want to get back to move and smooth. And then I'll just Z-wrap it, or I mean, I'll just Z-project it to the previous mesh. So we go into brush, we're going to Z-project, need RGB, don't need dynamic. I want to add because it's sunken below the surface, but minimally. Turn off lines. So just manually. I probably want to turn on back face masking too, because sometimes when you do that, it'll yank internals of the mouth. It'll pull polygons right up to underneath the surface right here from inside. So I always want to double check that when we don't turn on back face masking. You know, sometimes it can turn off this put on scaling. I mean anti-aliasing again. Active. So sometimes when you're doing a Z project brush, it'll yank stuff like this, like the gums. It'll just smack them up right up against the actual skin surface. So with backface masking, it won't do that. Another safe way to do that too, if you just wanted to take another safety measure, is just isolate, just control click your mesh that you're working on, and then we can just blur the mask a bit and shrink it. Actually sharpen it and shrink it. There we go. Bring it back up to full res and keep going with some Z project. And this is actually working pretty good. So this is probably one of the fastest ways to fix what I was talking about without having the ability to just slide edge loops around a surface that's not being deformed by them. I want to be careful here. Saw it looked a little funky for a second, just to make sure. Yeah, okay, we're still good. Whoa, sorry, a bunch of chat showed up. Red Hulker now. Do you mind showing me how the eyes look as I struggle with getting the outside edge of the eyebrow and muscles right. I have loads of references, but I'm missing something. Sure, yeah, I can zoom in on there in a second. Um, Sculpt and reproject, yeah. Z modeler have a slide edge loop. I mean, yeah, like I said, it does, but I mean, it does and it doesn't. Like it has a move edge loop, but it's like yeah, it's a slide edge loop. That's what it really, that's what I'd call it. It's what I want to do. Is lock the surface down, slide the edge loops around that surface, then re-engage it, and it would probably make slight adjustments, but it wouldn't drastically change because you're keeping those edge loops along the surface. So it probably would look better because that's what often I'd want it to do is you move the edge loops to more idyllic positions to hold the form even better just by redistributing them correctly. So yeah, I think I'll make a deliberate effort to drop a note with Paul and the Pixo team about this because I think it'd be really handy. I think it'd be extremely useful, and it's a simple but like major quality of life improvement, you know, for the software. Like it really be really useful. It's like kind of a very niche thing, but it's a niche that I don't know. The word niche implies that it's not a vastly wanted or used thing, but you know what I mean? Like it's very specific. It's very specific, but I think a lot of people would find a lot of use for it, and it would find more use than just in facial modeling. I think it would be useful in a lot of other experimentation and modeling and sculpting in general. Let me go back to the original. Just want to check how this is going. Let's probably shrink that back down. So yeah, sorry. I'll for the guy who asked about the eyes, or lady, I don't know who. I'll zoom in on the eyes in a moment. Let me just finish up the nasolabial folds. Well, eyes are challenging, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I worked on a lot of faces, and I feel confident about the general structure, but every now and then something looks a little off, and you're like, what am I missing? And you really look at your reference, or you really look at another angle of the person's face, or what makes their eyes look different than what you're working on, or to stand out as unique. And then you finally, something clicks finally, and you're like, oh, I see it, you know. And if you can line it up, like obviously this is really gifted in that I have a scan that's ripped from the game. But if you have even like photos, if you don't have a scan of anybody or a model to reference a real person or the character you're trying to create, but if you're referencing someone else, something that you can take an image of and put behind, and then either like as an image plane, you know, or do this even just a really quick and dirty, just open the image, put it behind ZBrush, and then just line your stuff up, save the camera quick, so if you move it at all, it can snap back, and then just do it that way. That'll really help you train, condition, just like using machines in the gym. You could do those same motions, a lot of the same motions, not all of them, with free weights at home, but having something that forces you into a certain rigidity, structure, conditions the brain and muscle memory to then do that when you're free of the machine, if it's possible, physically possible. You know, so doing like controlled movements. The same kind of thing comes to the hand and the brain-eye hand coordination. When you force yourself to conform what you're making to the image that you're using as reference, and you just are like, you know, you're just a Nazi about it. You're just like unwavering in your whatever, you know, in your approach to that, then it'll help you, and you do it again and again and again, it'll help your brain understand to replicate what you're actually seeing and not reinterpreting what you think you're seeing, which is what we all struggle with. It's just it's one of the most common and earliest challenges of any artist is replicating what you're looking at and not replicating what you think you're looking at, you know, or what you have been looking at, because it's always a struggle of looking more at your reference than your page, or at least, you know, um, either looking more at your reference than your page, or nearly, you know, be equal balance of it. It was always a struggle in drawing. I remember like drawing 1 and 2. All right, we're getting there, almost there. Oh yeah, see there's some stuff messing up right there. Let's clear the mask for now. Turn off that so it stops messing me up. Corners of the mouth and lips and the corners of the eyes are always hang-ups. They're always a little bit of a headache, or can be pretty frequently. I'm gonna drop down a subdivision or two here to kind of smooth this out more. But yeah, even here now, just seeing that change, even at a lower res, it's when the edge loops flow with the form that you need, obviously it'll just look better at lower res, and that's why game models and whatnot are so optimized with edge flows in all the right places and like no excess as much as possible. That's what always makes a more efficient model, so that when it animates, you don't have any extra. You have no extra polygonal baggage to compute for your console or your PC. So it's about lightening the load. That's why movies and games look different in resolution and clarity and everything, is because computation. All right. That's like duh, but I mean, some people may actually not think about that, so just mentioning it. So yeah, I'll get to the chat in a minute. I'm sure someone's probably saying something else. All right, we're getting there, getting there. Put this up to 100 for a second just to really nail this, because it's not that wrinkled, I don't think, in his I mean, it's so in shadow and so blurry, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. But I just feel like it's probably going out a little bit more sideways than down. But anyway, now I'm a lot happier with that edge loop. And it's just a small adjustment. It was just like a couple edge loops that needed a couple little sets that needed to move over just a little. But it makes such a big difference here in just how the line now can terminate more naturally. So we'll just take that down a bit. And then we'll zoom in properly. So it kind of wants to end there. It's a matter of smoothing, because the flow is actually doesn't just do that. There's kind of like a different shape to it when the skin folds back like that. right, just matching up again the areas there. All right. Off the other one, take another look. Got to do the other side then, but go back to actual. A little too harsh. So I'm just holding Alt and using the move brush here to pull out from the normals some of the skin here. I'm going to do a little Z project again, but do it a bit more gently. I don't want too big of an indentation. That was there. Add that back in a little more aggressively. All right. What's up, Exodus? Z-Modeler has a massive learning curve. Might as well have a tool brush set for. Well, that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, it's kind of just. I'm not sure what you meant by they might as well just have a tool brush set, tool brush, and like all. I mean, just that's. I guess that's kind of what it is, right? I mean, it's like it's kind of a mode, really. Right? We could have been planning a good sliding actually. Yeah. Any tips on retopoing belts? I don't know. Like you mean just like regular belts they use for like your pants? I mean it's retopoing it. I guess just take like a ring in here, right? Take a torus in here and just edit it quickly, right? So let's see here. Torus, you want to come down to initialize. Then you want to have fun with all these settings. So radius, belts are usually more like that. And then amount of divisions. Yeah, sure, I have a lot of those, but then you want like like a cube basically extruded in a ring, right? So I'm gonna put this at 4, and then you want to put your twist at what is it, like 45? Yeah. See, and then you want to increase or decrease your do they have a thing for that? I forget. For the yeah, this is it. The internal radius. The S radius. I don't know why I call it the S radius. But you don't want that twist. I mean, I would just use something like this, right? Then cut off some of the edge loops and then close those two together. And there, you've got a belt. And then you can just make it, however thick you need. And I mean, right there, this is great topology for what you need. And just subdivide it if you need more detail. Subdivide it up to sculpt all the detail and put out the maps from that if that's what you're doing. But I mean, I don't know. That's what I would do to retopo a belt. I would do that. And then if you needed this to match something else, do what I was doing with the face. Just kind of position it in the same space as the whatever you're trying to match. If you're trying to retopo it, and then project everything onto it, and if you need a little thicker, then you just do that. So I mean, that's what I would do, I guess. When it comes to retopoing, if you have anything that you can wrap to something else that already has UVs and or the topology you want, do that instead of trying to just do the manual retopology of something. If it's so, you know, like esoteric, so unique that nothing else is out there that's already made with good topology, good UVs is available for you to conform to that shape, then just go ahead and manually retopo. But if you don't have to manually retopo, save yourself a lot of time, give or take, depending on, you know, depending on what's needed, and just use some other model that has good UVs and you know, or even if it's just good topology, because if you're just going to have to retopo, you're going to have to redo UVs anyway. So even if the model you find, let's say that's similar to what you're trying to retopo, doesn't have great UVs or doesn't have any UVs or even has terrible UVs, but it has great topology, just, you know, screw it. Just delete the UVs, reconform the one with good topo to the one you're trying to retopo, and then make new UVs with that. Should be a lot easier. Your stupid self didn't think of that. It's all good, dude. And then we all miss simple things like that until we're told or we learn from experience or making our, you know, embarrassing ourselves. And I'm speaking from personal experience. That's how you learn certain tools exist in any program. I mean, especially deep ones like ZBrush and Maya. You can't know everything, right? Even in your own field, let's say of like my own area of modeling in Maya, there's certain things I've never had to do before, only because someone never asked me to. It's like it happened at work like a month ago or two, month and a half ago. A lead who's much more experienced than I am. He's like older, you know, really sharp guy, and he's been in this a lot longer. You know, that's the other thing. It's like I keep feeling bad sometimes about certain things, and I'm like, oh yeah, wait. Even though maybe this person's like 15 or 10 years older than me, and I feel like I should have caught up to that point there. I have to remember they were in this since they were like 18, right? Like they knew what they wanted to do, or even younger, right? And they just have been in this world from the beginning. They knew Maya when it was just Alias, and there was like no even Maya didn't even the name didn't exist yet. And I jumped into this in I got serious about it like in 2012, 2013. So a lot less time underneath my belt compared, no pun intended, compared to what someone much more senior than me has had. So they've had a lot more time to make certain mistakes and, excuse me, learn certain things and did a more formal like education in it, while I dropped out of, you know, pursuing med school and went into visual effects way later in my life. And so it sort of always felt like I'm playing catch up a little bit, but I definitely put in the work. So I feel pretty good about myself and about where my skill sets are and where they're going based upon the amount of time that that I've had and that I've, you know, devoted to learning everything that I need to learn in order to function competently in this industry. But it's not really an easy road, you know. I mean, so people shouldn't be too hard on themselves for not knowing certain things or only learning whatever just now. So sorry, I'm gonna help out whoever asked for this before, just to zoom in the eyes quick. So I'll turn off the other model, turn off the color of the polygroups. So again, the eyes aren't done. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I haven't like really paid a huge amount of attention to detailing because we haven't gone into like pore detail yet or anything. I definitely want to try to put in some of that pore detail, and I know even putting it at 0.25 microns, the human eye may not perceive much of it. But if I can get in at least a little bit of skin texture, you know, that will read visually when it's printed, I still think that'll be worth it. So now the eyes here don't have lenses. So that's just intentional right now so that we can see the eye with the iris and it doesn't look like a zombie or it's just like, you know, a little weird. Because the eyes, we are so conditioned to looking at the human face with X, Y, and Z, with eyes, with irises, and with skin color. So a lot of that, when you don't see it, when you don't have it, when you're working on something like this, it can throw you off as an artist and as a human because we're so conditioned to knowing what, especially someone that we've seen a lot in a lot of movies like Keanu Reeves or any other actor or actress, we are so conditioned to know exactly what they should look like with skin, with skin color, with blood vessels, with all the normal human details and imperfections and beauties and, you know, intricacies that the human being has. So when you strip away some of those but keep others, it can really kind of like mentally throw you askew and you're just like, something's off, but I don't know what. And sometimes it's not the form, it's just the coloring and the lighting, you know, when it comes to something like this. Other times it can be the form plus the lack of color and lighting that would make someone look human, right? No subsurface scattering, so the skin glows, you know, and there's none of that. So, you know, there's a lot of those issues that can come into play. Anyway, but so for the person who was asking about eyes, where is the question again? Where is it? There's not a lot of questions here. How am I missing it? Where is it? Okay, there we go. Leonard, Leonard. Sorry. Um, okay, so the brow. So is there anything here in particular that you wanted? You want me to do? I can isolate here, so you can kind of see like the eye bags, and you can even do it from the. You got your profile view there if you want. You can also do this. So you can get on the inside look. Oh yeah, these are from the, that's interesting. It's weird they have these. I think it's probably for like light emittance, maybe through the eyes, maybe for the game. That's why they have these discs here, but I didn't put those there. That's from the scan. I mean, from the, yeah, from the, pretty sure that's from the scan in the game. And for me, normally in movies, they like eye bags to be more full and behind the eyes in case like anything gets pulled around and there's no so weird like light movement or anything and things can just animate nicely. But since this will be 3D printed, sorry, I'm tripping over my words. Eye bags doesn't matter because the eyes are going to be just, you know, sealed, bullied into, you know, joined to this part of the skull. So they'll be in there. So I could really just have flat surfaces right behind the curvature of the eye and it wouldn't matter. But yeah, I mean, again, this is not perfect as you can see here. There's areas that are pinching and kind of like a little too folded. Because then if we look at the original, so like here, I'd want to do some more Z-wrapping, Z-projecting. Keep saying Z-wrap because I'm using Z-wrap all the time lately at work and on this and other stuff, other faces. I love Z-wrap though. Z-wrap's amazing. It's an incredible, like, magical tool. I was doing that on the boy child character from the Last Guardian short. I'm still slowly putting together. I was doing that for one of his versions of his model. Is that right? I wonder if that's accurate. Well, it's hard to tell because glass. Yeah, duh. The glasses will be covering it up, so kind of irrelevant. Do you drop the brow into the eyeball on the outside edge? So I drop the brow onto the eyeball on the outside edge. I'm not sure which outside edge you mean. You just mean on the outside on top of the eyelid? Yeah. I mean, but that's only certain people have that look, right? Like for instance, there's, you know, your eyelids will fold up, obviously, like kind of fold on top of themselves if your eyes are open, but usually unless you're animating it, which you want to make blend shapes for that, you know, so that it folds in correctly. That's a tedious process. Like, that's not simple and easy. That'll take some time. Easier if you have a lower polygon mesh for sure. But here, yeah, I'm dropping that skin down a little bit because that's how Keanu's face is. I mean, slightly. It's not like it's old man saggy brow face, not like that, you know, because those are different. Like here's the scan, and you can see how, yeah, there's a bit of tissue here that's below the brow that kind of lays on top of the eyelid, but that's his face. My face doesn't quite have that. My brow is actually a bit more shallow, I guess, in a sense than his. Like mine doesn't come out quite as much. You know, it doesn't feel like it comes out quite as much. It's not quite as pronounced as his. I think he has a little bit stronger of a brow, the bone structure here. It could be even a bit more, just a bit more muscle or just tissue distribution. But in general, it just seems like my eyes are probably a little bit bigger too, so they kind of come forward a bit more. His are a little bit more sunken back and seem to be, yeah, maybe just at least the size of how the eyes are open, the opening of the eyelids is a bit more, a bit smaller than mine. And that goes also with just typical for people's, you know, how the races and the genetics that go with them, kind of just the phenotype, as we call in biology, how it manifests physically, right? How genetics show. So yeah, so I maintained that, and then I just dropped it and conformed it, pulled it. I shouldn't say dropped it. It's like more constricted, really, is what it has done for this expression. It's very tight. Everything's like coming to the center, right? Where this, when you're making that anger and rage, disgust, anger and rage, all that kind of retention, everything kind of shrinks and comes in toward the center of like the nasal bone right here. So mouth, everything goes up, nasal, nostrils flare, everything just tightens into one central point. And that's a universal symbol for rage, apparently, on most any animal or mammal that has any kind of muscles in the face, like similar to ours. If you look at a lion when it's really pissed off, it looks a lot like a human. It looks freaking pissed. It looks scary. It's pretty awesome and just wild, no pun intended, to think about how rage, anger, just this pure, one of the purest, most destructive in this case, emotions, manifests itself the same across species. It's profound and interesting. It's crazy. But yeah, we monkeys, same thing, of course. Look at chimps, apes, the same. They're terrifying. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like this hairless chimp. I just recently found some footage of these hairless chimps, and because like even the chimps are kind of like they're the other chimps, the ones that are hairless, and they don't like them because I guess the way they look, right? So they're they're racist against their own species, I guess, or just because again these chimps are like, they're hairless, so they're all like really white and pale and kind of pinky, and they look terrifying. They look like little demons. That amount of just that light coating of fur and coloration in the skin, what you see on chimps, really softens, even though they're not, to me, they're not that gentle looking at all, and they can do terrible things to people and each other. When you take away the fur, the hair, holy crap, they look terrifying. So look up on YouTube like hairless chimps attack or something like that. It's terrifying. But again, those expressions of rage and anger, everything comes to the center of the face, and the teeth flare out because they have those massive, canines, and it's just terrifying. So anyway, enough about that. I missed thanks, I missed the folding lips. Oops. Okay. Yeah, sure thing, man. No worries. Yeah, hopefully it helped. And anyone else who might have had any doubts or questions about eyes and how to go about them. Don't feel bad if it's a struggle. I mean, it's always a headache, I think, in general, until unless you've just poured in like thousands of hours into sculpting just eyes and really studying how they form. But then you have to take into account everyone's face is very different. Like, and I just showed you, like, eyes and the way that the brow interacts with the eyelids and how the eyeball interacts with the eyelids, and then what comes down below here. Everyone's different. Everyone has a unique. You'll find grouping. You'll definitely find like certain people, certain races, certain bone structures. They have certain conformities where there's like general parameters that most of those people in that area and that demographic fall into, like in a general range. And then you'll find those random people who almost look like twins of someone else, right? You'll find someone who looks just like your friend or just like someone else but they're not related at all. But they almost could be their twin, right? You always heard that phrase, that cliche, like everyone has a twin in the world or something like that. Genetics, because we're all related. Like way back in the line, we're all related, obviously. So there's always going to be common ground genetically, and genetic roulette will, just as people will look similar to each other in the world, so goes general psychology for generations. So like the odds of two people who look a certain way finding each other attractive and having children, it's a very big, huge algorithm, but I'm sure that you could find that same algorithm, that same part of the algorithm mirrored in another couple that looks similar to this couple that found each other attractive, or at least their gene, some other deep genetic coding finds the other genetic coding of the other person attractive, and so they wind up meeting, marrying, probably having children, and then their kids look very similar to these other couples' kids. And it's because genetics, there's a certain circular pattern to everything that's human, and that's in nature. So you'll see there's a certain level of just organization breeds somewhat of a level of predictability inherently, right? And so genetics is highly organized, obviously. Existence, life, creation is all highly organized in some way, otherwise it wouldn't be sustained. So that level of organization breeds a certain level of predictability, and that predictability leads to a certain level of repetition. So we see certain things repeat themselves. So anyway, and that gets into a lot of much bigger topics, of course. But that also explains why people who don't know history are destined to repeat it. Same kind of thing. It's because they're human, and if they're not very cognizant of repetition, if we're not looking to not repeat the same mistakes that other people have made, we will most likely repeat them. And that happens all the time because unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't care to research history. So we are repeating it in different ways and all over the place. So just the sad and interesting facts of humanity, the unfortunate realities of human existence in some ways. Anyway, sorry to get all metaphysical or philosophical. I don't know. It's a mixture of things. Ontological. Anyway, just things I've been thinking about. And it's things I've always thought about too. It's like the predictability of like human beings made roads, right? Why is it always that you find a certain pattern of X, Y, and Z leading up to A, right? Like we made roads. People have certain patterns and habitual tendencies and laws and whatnot, and that kind of all orchestrates to a system of flow of how cars move. And so there's always that. It always seems like no matter what you try, you wind up seeing someone come around the corner right at the time you're trying to cross that street. Or there's certain things that just seem like so coincidental. But if you could have like a God's eye view of the world and could see the patterns, it would suddenly be so obvious as like, oh, well, that's happening because the coincidence or the chance is happening because there's a certain level of predictable repeatability and organization that's just a really, really huge, complex level. So when you're in like an ant like we are, there's just a little person in this massive world. It seems like a random, coincidence, but in reality, there's that same coincidence happening to different people all over the world at different times. That feels like a coincidence to each of them, but they're all going through the same pattern just in a different way. I don't know. So anyway, sorry, totally off topic, but stuff I think about. Just the some of the deeper sides of life and how a lot of our experiences feel unique, but a lot of times aren't. They're experienced by others, so we just don't know them or haven't heard about them. So I'm just bulging up here the tear gland, the what is it called? The caruncle, right? Sorry, I'm a little tired, a little out of it. Busy, busy, busy. Hello from Jamaica. Hello from LA. um, Welcome for the eye help. No worries. Uh, it's okay. The programs is practical make, and it's 0:02 in South Africa. So that's military time. So that means it's like what? That's like 1 a.m. or midnight, I guess. Right? It's a little late or early, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, they brought me up here to the eyes, so I'm just sort of tidying up the eyes right now. You guys have any other questions or facial anatomy questions? If I can answer them, let me know. I'm by no means the facial anatomy expert, but having worked in art for a while now and having a medical background, studying human body a lot, I feel comfortable with it, but definitely not by any means the expert that the guys at like Anatomy Tools are. I can't remember his name right now, but he's a really sharp dude. His work is amazing. Can't think. You guys know who I'm talking about. Dude who owns Anatomy Tools and is like one of the best artists out there for anatomy in general. Incredible, incredible work he's put out. Oh, derp. Wrong brush. Come on. Oh my god, stop. Alright, we're looking good. Let's see about that other nasolabial fold. Oops, wrong one. This one. I just use a color so I can distinguish between the two, so I know how close things are matching. Sorry, it's a little annoying probably to watch all the time. Bring this back up to full res. There we go. Things match better. That reminds me, I should check on this now. Just fix this 2 on here so that it doesn't screw up the other one that I've worked on. Oh, that's messed up in the eyebrow or the eyelid. Huh. Interesting. I guess that's on that one. It must be on this one too. Yep. So that's a problem. You gotta fix that. You don't want flipping an interpenetration like that anywhere, because that'll create a hole usually in 3D printing. So here, I'm gonna smooth this out the inside, because you don't want that pushing through the eyelid. There we go. That means now it's a little bit duller out here. So we open up the original, hide the previous, and we can project this back. We should be able to. Or drop to a couple lower sub Ds. Ah, shit. Just wanted to bridge to the eyeballs. So I'm going to turn those off for now. Boop. Step it up another sub D. Helps us get more of that detail. Even though I know that his the scan is triangulated, so that's why you see that kind of stair-steppy, kind of like staggery look. If you look at the mesh here, it's like awkwardly kind of, you know, they've triangulated a quadrified mesh. Um, so it creates this kind of almost like rope thread twisting kind of look to the edge loops, where they would be clean if they didn't have these extra, you know, dividing lines that can make it a triangle. But unfortunately, when you subdivide it, then it creates this kind of like staggering effect. So that's just something I got to smooth out here after the fact. I have no idea why game engines need to triangulate stuff, but I guess it's just something to do with the coding. Something that's been long time established for 3D games, and just, I don't know. I was curious. I should look it up because I never really knew why. But I always noticed it and was always kind of annoyed by it. But I guess because with triangles you can have less polys form the same shape, because you have one less point per polygon. So then you do that times thousands, and you save thousands of points and thousands of polygons. I guess right. That's where it's rooted in. It's just, again, budget friendly. I guess I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe that's how a lot of game engines were coded originally, and so they just keep the same basis. I'm not really sure. Anyway. Oh, oops. All right, sorry, just touching this. Oh, there we go. A little push in there. Got one more up. Clean this up. All right, clean that up. And that makes me wonder if that happened over here as well. Sometimes it does. It doesn't look like that. There's a little disturbance there. Always good to do a little model housekeeping. Tidy things up a little bit, or a lot. Lee Gibbons, what's up? Let's see here. 6 a.m. Too sleepy to process anything. Yeah, the majority of Pixology streamers are streaming now. Yeah, other than scanning through the model, looking for folded parts that may make holes in printing, is there any other way to check it quick? I mean, yeah, there's the check mesh button that just checks for general errors, but that won't really tell you about these kind of specifics. I've seen tools that are great that are written for Maya, that will do a lot of commands that Maya can do, which is, you know, check for triangles, check for holes, check for non-manifold faces. You can do a lot of those checks, you know, but there's not really that kind of tool set, unfortunately, in ZBrush. There's just check mesh basically, and it just says if mesh integrity is good or not. But I found that even conflicts sometimes with what, for 3D printing side of things, what Formlabs preform software will say is okay or not. So there's like, arguments between the softwares of, discrepancies of what software thinks the mesh is okay and which software says there's a problem. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what the solution is here. Maybe it would be to bring Pixologic and Formlabs engineers together again. Together at some point to sort of diagnose like diagnose what's actually causing those conflicts, to resolve that. I don't know. That'd be great. I would love to see them kind of give us some answers to that, because I had that happen a lot, and I'm just like, why is this? Why is ZBrush telling me it's good, and then Formlabs preform is saying it's bad? It's like they can't both be right. I mean, maybe they are in their own ways. They're looking for different things, and for one program it's a problem, but for the other program, like I guess ZBrush is more tolerant of maybe certain issues that, for whatever reason, preform is saying nope, this isn't acceptable. Need to fix it. Because often I'll export something out of ZBrush and it'll say the mesh is broken, but it looks I worked on it from scratch and it looks great in ZBrush, and I don't know what I either did, or if there's just something inherently in how ZBrush is built, has whatever how it's uh, constructed and collated the vert count, or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what again is causing the discrepancy, but a lot of times, even like with this last piece that I did, the Quiet Place Alien, kept getting some errors, and I had to like go back and forth and just say, all right, like preform, fix it, and then let it process for a while, and it finally said, all right, it's printable, or it may not print, but let's see. and it worked. But yeah, I don't know why it's doing that though. I don't know why ZBrush and preform don't always play nice together, but it would be great if they could fix it. Dang it, that went out again. So here's an interesting topic for the whoa for the chat. So I've been getting back into I guess it makes sense to say it this way. I've been getting back into retro gaming. Sorry, let me just catch up on chat now. So there's a bunch of stuff here I missed. Yeah, triangles the smallest polygons. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I don't really speak Spanish. I'm sorry. Lourdes. Why is ZBrush is so expensive? Well, they have a subscription package that's not that expensive. You could try subscribing, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't price it. I'm not in charge at all. I just, but buy it now, because it's always going to probably go up a little bit in price over the years. And if you buy now, if they keep the same model they have, you should get a free upgrade the next version, and all the versions after that for free. I mean, but it's still not that expensive, I would say, compared to Maya. So, take that for what it's worth. Going back and forth between 3D printing and sculpting software frustrates me. So I'll just turn this off so it's not so boring for everybody as I read chat. Between 3D printing and sculpting software frustrates me. I had to check the model multiple times, sometime over days, to find out what's wrong. Yeah, exactly. It's frustrating, right? It's annoying. I wish they would really just sort that stuff out, talk to each other. Ho, I mean hi. Don't know how to spell. Hello, Galaxy Bear 789. What is up? Not Galaxy Bear. So anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, I've been getting back into retro gaming, and I'm picking up some older consoles or some modded consoles to play collections of games that I still own, but are in a box that I left in my parents' house back when I moved out, like over a decade ago, and it's I can't even so I was just picking up some new like so analog there's this company called Analog, and they've remade using FPGA chips circuits. I'm not really sure what the proper terminology is for all the electronics they used. I think it's a chipset, chipset. Anyway, they reconstructed the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo into these really compact, great little systems that take the original cartridges. It's incredible. So if you own all these games and you have their ROMs, you rip their ROMs and stick them on an SD card and stick it into a cartridge that EverDrive makes, or yeah, EverDrive, you can then play your entire collection, all the games you legally own, on this cartridge, and play the entire library of whatever games you want that you have. For the Sega Genesis on their I think it's called the Mega SG by Analog. The Super Nintendo, they call it, what do they call it? I think they call it the Super NT, I think, or something like that. And yeah, and then I'm looking to pick up an old. I've been calling my parents, being like, "Hey, Dad, have you seen my N64 in a box anywhere at home?" Because I haven't touched my N64. I mean, it's over. It's across the country. It's with their house, somewhere in a box. So I have no idea where it is. But I've been looking at all this stuff and thinking like, man, it'll be fun to play some of these games again. But all the systems now have wireless controllers that you can use with them now too. So it's new hardware that replicates the old hardware, and then it can run all the ROMs on it as if it was the real cartridge plugged into it. So there's no lag, no delay, no weird. It doesn't look like it's emulation because it's real hardware. Anyway, so I've just been getting into that recently, and I just find it fascinating. And it's so cool how far things have come. I'm having a modded Dreamcast being sent to me, even though I have an old one here. Just been diving deep into like how to mod things. Like I might even go as far as to try to do the there's a whole like little circuit board, a chipset you have to attach and like solder with like really fine like micro little strips to connect a digital output so that you can put out micro HDMI from the Dreamcast, and that'll go directly into your TV and it will display properly. Which is bananas. It's very fine, detailed work, but I'm so used to doing work with a stylus and having done 3D printing work very finely. I feel like I'll risk it. I think it's not. It's scary and intimidating when you stand from the outside, but when you really get down to the micro areas and you start seeing and watching videos about how to do it, it's not as intimidating. It's just time consuming, just a little laborious. But anyway, I don't know. It's just some cool stuff I've been looking up, sort of getting outside of. It's back in my interests, but from a more like technical side of understanding them, sort of like watching people open up consoles and understanding a bit more of the electronics, and just taking a little bit of dipping a toe into the slightly deeper side, the deeper edge of the pool, for interests that I had as a child, as a kid, and now as an adult, I'm looking to enjoy, since they've really progressed a lot with technology now, and we can get back into them in a much more less cluttered way if you have a collection on one cartridge, per system, and can play wirelessly, so you don't have to wrap all these cables up and put everything away or trip over them if someone's walking across the living room. So it's just cool. I don't know. It's just been enjoying a little bit of nostalgia, and getting back in touch with memories from my youth. So yeah, I don't know if any of you guys are into the modding scene at all, or into gaming at all, from back in the N64 or Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, GameCube. Of course, Xbox 360 and PS3, I think most everybody's had those if they're into gaming at all. But yeah, the Dreamcast, I love the Dreamcast. That's a system that came and went too fast. Sad that was the downfall of Sega, unfortunately. But man, I love that. I love that system, and there's a lot of fun games on there that were well made and really beautiful stuff too. Really fun work. I really loved Sonic Adventure. The first one was great. Um, Totally, like low poly stuff, and of course it's like, doesn't look nearly as amazing as a lot of the stuff out there today, but there's a certain level of charm and artistry, and being constrained to minimal, like having to still be really tight with your polygon count and judicial, um, led to some interesting and creative, artistic choices for how to make something look the way they wanted it to by faking it in a lot of ways, or baking in light and whatever. There's all kinds of cool techniques that they did in games back then. But yeah, 1999, man. September 9th, 1999. Actually, I remember a little story. I probably told somebody this before. Probably said this one stream, but I got a job when I was, because I think I was just graduating high school then. Yeah, because I graduated in, was it 2000? It was 2000. So I was like a senior in high school, and it was, yeah, summer of '99, and my job, my little high school job at that time was working at GameStop, simply for the pure interest. It was GameStop and the Gap. Those are the two jobs I had in the same mall. And so I would just work their schedules together so that I could, basically, it was for the same reason for both, to get discount on stuff that I wanted to buy and make money. But of course, like half my paychecks or a lot of them went back into the same store I was working at. So, works out for the company. But yeah, I remember the Dreamcast launch was a lot of fun for me as a teen. And a lot of fun memories of that, and playing with friends. Of course, it's not even just the game. The games were really enjoyable, but it was playing with my sister and playing with my friends, and like Power Stone, or like with N64. It was the teen years for me, and that was great with GoldenEye and Mario Kart, of course. But it was just so much fun to be shared with friends and family, that that really, I think, brings back, attached to beautiful imagery, or cute, cute imagery, charming imagery. But yeah, I don't know, good times. And it's just during these rougher times in our history right now across the world, it's nice to go and divert your attention away from even current entertainment, because current entertainment's sort of infused with current politics sometimes, and I don't want to be preached at. I don't even want to think about some of the problems in our world. I just want to have that more pure, innocent, fun, pure, just clean, beautiful, attractive entertainment. If I really want to be entertained, if I don't want to do something constructive necessarily, I just want to, you could say it's burning time, but we all need entertainment. We all need a breath. We all need to breathe and get away from work, even personal work, unless that's really therapeutic for you, of course. I mean, but even for me, even if I'm enjoying it, sometimes I just want to be entertained, and be entertained in a way that's not with anything new, but actually revisit some old stuff, or play games I never played before, but I always heard about, maybe I never could afford as a kid. Or I mean, I picked up usually almost all the ones I ever really wanted at some point or another, but it's been so long since I played some of them that it's anyway, just musing. But it'll be fun to revisit some of the older entertainment choices I had as a late teen and early teen, and just have some fun, having some nostalgic trips down memory lane, playing some games, and probably inviting some friends over to play on the TV here, do some GoldenEye tournaments, whatever. That'll be fun. So anyway, I don't know. Any you guys into gaming at all? You guys play any older stuff again? Sean Trina, retro gaming with retro consoles, screams in happiness. I was too young to own any of those old consoles. Okay, Exodus. You were one person who played those games. Yeah, man, those were good times. Those were really good times. I mean, Halo. It's like Halo's still present, like on anything though. You can get like the Halo Master Chief Collection, and forget. I think I downloaded it and heard there was bugs or patches, and I got busy, and then I never really wanted playing it with friends. But the original Halo, Halo 2, and Halo 3, even I think it's Halo 4. Because I mean, every time a Halo comes out, eventually I get it and play it with friends. It's not that I care for the story at all, because I think the story is very, like, I don't know, the naming and a lot of things, and it's just always felt like it's a tween game. It's like a teen game. The story, it's like they're trying to be serious and heavy with, like, like a sounds so kind of like a sophomoric kind of level of, like, oh well, let's just call these guys, like, really, let's use words that are big for someone in, like, late high school or early college, and use general philosophical ideas and mash it into a sci-fi story with a space marine and a gun, but keep the aliens kind of cute and goofy. So I always felt like Halo was never really, like, it didn't go for the R. You know what I mean? It didn't go for adults. It just went for kids, for teens. But it was fun. Like, I'm not looking at it as like a great opus at all as far as story goes. And even the music, everyone praises it, but I'm like, meh, it just doesn't excite me. It's just so, it's like the whole, like, Gregorian chanting kind of stuff. It doesn't really fit to me with, you know, that genre. I feel like you want something a bit more intense and a bit more classical, like John Williams-ish or Hans Zimmer-ish, to really get your blood pumping and to kind of get a vast scale of something and feel that kind of, intensity. I always felt like music in Halo is just kind of like, meh. It's kind of meh. I know, but people love it, so whatever, teach their own. Just, I was always just kind of like, man, it should be better, could be better. Sorry, Marty, the composer out there. I'm sure he's not watching this, but um, it wasn't terrible. I didn't think it was terrible. I just didn't find it amazing. I was finding it a little off. It felt a little off, basically. But sorry, my headphones are just dying, so I'm just gonna swap them out quick. Anyway, but yeah, Halo was fun. Halo is one of those other games that it's just a joy to play with friends and shoot them, just to just to kill them virtually, you know. I guess that's probably why I'm also looking back toward like N64 and Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo. It's like most of those games, there was a lot of platforming. You know, I've been using my I'm waiting for the analog systems to arrive to ship. I just ordered them. Because they just got restocked. So if you guys want to get an analog Sega Genesis or Super NES, Mega SD and Super NT, go to analog.com or analog, I forget, just search analog um Mega SG or whatever, or Super NT, you'll find it on off of Google. Um but it's analog like it's, I think they use like a, what is it, like a GUE, I think at the end. It's like a more like, what is that, like a French spelling? Excuse me. Anyway, European spelling of it. But uh there's like a purity. There's a beauty to the innocence and purity that we enjoyed as kids during that era that they don't really seem to make much anymore. Even the games that are similar-ish. I mean, like, I guess the closest thing to a really beautiful platformer today was a game I really enjoyed, but it was still much darker than the games that I'm referencing, like Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario, or Donkey Kong Country, which is really fun on Super NES. Beautiful, like pre-rendered graphics too. I always love that. Um, or like Mario Kart, you know, it's like it's semi-violent, but not really. It's like cartoon violence. But now it's like Ori and the Blind Forest. I love that game, and I love the soundtrack. Like Gareth Coker did it. I mean, I actually have the got the what is it, the I'm 8-bit collector's edition right here, which is freaking awesome. Glows in the dark. It has the stuff that like opens up, and there's the game and all this other paraphernalia. Sorry, that's like bubble wrap in there, but yeah, this, if you haven't played this game, by the way, this is totally not sponsored or anything, but it's just an amazing amount of artistry and ZBrush work that went into the modeling the characters for Ori and the Blind Forest and the sequel Will of the Wisps. But this is a pretty close call, but still it's like really dark and very like emotional and sad at times. It's a beautiful story. Like I really love it. But it's still like it's extra heavy compared to the cheerful childish innocence of Sonic and Mario and all the other stuff. And so anyway, I guess I'm just reminiscing about the fact that we don't really see that made anymore. We don't see just that pure, like artistically well done and colorful and like very well executed, well designed, yet not Metroidvania, like violent, angry, or dark gaming much. And we don't see that. And so everything is like, almost everything is like, go and kill, shoot this, go and kill and shoot that. And I have nothing wrong with violence. I love action movies. I love like gory violence even. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, I like to just unwind with something that reminds me of just those kind of like simpler days that are still well designed. And that's why I like Sonic Mania when that came out, which is kind of like a remix, but then also some new levels, and but it plays just like the old Sonic games. I really enjoyed that a lot because it brought back memories of my childhood, but it was novel because there were new levels and new moves you could do, and you know, and yet fast and fun and great music and all that kind of stuff. And became friends with the composer from that too, T. Lopes, great guy, really talented, and was a fan, was somebody just like us, like who loved gaming and was just putting out his own remixes and own designs for songs on YouTube, and then he got hired by Sega to do it for their official Sonic game, which was awesome. So super cool to see people who are really passionate and genuine and good-hearted get this kind of gigs. That's really it really encourages me. It's really happy. It's really happy. I'm really happy to. I can't talk today. Sorry. I'm really happy to see those kind of people get what they deserve. They put in hard work. They put in a lot of genuine love into something, and then they got paid and hired to do the official product. Like that's, you can't buy passion. Like you can't buy someone's heart like devoted to something. That's what I always find to be very key in that any business that really wants to glorify and epitomize something that they're making, hire people who are competent, who would kill and love and are, you know, really skilled at what you make or what you're trying to, you know, they can glorify what you're doing. Hire those people. Like hire gifted fans. They're fans, but they happen to be professionals at whatever, you know, you're making. Hire those people. Those are the ones who are going to make your product the best because they're going to give 110%, and you could never pay someone to give their heart to a project. Either you care or you don't. No matter how much money's involved, your level of commitment and blood, sweat, and tears won't be equal to somebody, even if you incentivize them out the wazoo. There's a certain point where it just doesn't, you know what I mean? It just doesn't matter how much money you throw at some people. It won't change their heart. It'll never change their heart. So anyway, I don't know, getting philosophical again, but yeah, dude, I don't know, just old school gaming. it's weird. Like when I was younger, you never really say this to a girl. You never mention gaming to a girl really, because it would just make you look like a nerd, and you just feel like they're just like, oh, whatever, he games, he's like a nerd, you know. That's how I always felt as a kid. But as an adult now, it's like so many girls I know and so many women just have grown up like my sister, have grown up playing games with their brothers or just on their own interest. And it's just funny how that what used to be kind of, you know, a nerdy sort of pastime for a lot of dudes is now such a cultural norm, like more than ever, because so many people play their phones, of course, too, but still they play games and they enjoy gaming of some kind. Um, and it's just interesting to see how times have changed, and yeah, just how it's really become. I mean, especially with modern games now. Like I was just playing the director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima, like the new expansion, Iki Island. Oh my gosh, like I can't wait to interview that actor and hopefully some of the writers for my podcast. That's still coming. I already reached out to his I guess his publicist or his manager, and we've chatted, and so they're open to hearing about what the podcast is about, and hopefully they'll say yes. But yeah, the character Jin Sakai, Dice, I can't remember his last name right now, sorry. um, but yeah, he an amazing actor, very talented. They're making a movie out of that game too, and hopefully they put him in it because he would be. It's his face on the game, like it looks like him. You know, obviously looks. It's like this level of fidelity. Um, but yeah, man, certain modern games like that too. Like, yeah, you're killing everybody. You're just running around like as a samurai, saving people, but killing a lot of bad guys with a sword, with a katana. But wow, that game is powerful. Like, such a good story, really moving at times. And so what I'm saying is like so many games, whether we were kids playing them or now as adults, there are definitely some games that are just they are. I mean, all games are art to some degree, of course, because it takes art to make what you see. But the when I say art, I guess you just mean it's like there's an auteur behind the game. There's a great story. There's great writing. Or there's just even though like a children's book, you could almost parallel these to like games today can be as deep and intricate and beautiful as like a really well written novel for adults, right? Like Ghost of Tsushima. And then you look at games like Sonic and Mario, they're like really well written children's books, right? They're still in the same, they're of the same world, of the same entertainment matter, but for definitely for different demographics, but can be appreciated by adults. Anyway, it's probably more one way side thing. So you probably don't want to put little kids in front of really violent, bloody things. But obviously, some kids love that now. But you know what I mean. So yeah, just interesting musings that have been running around my head lately about how games have just really become a part of our culture, uh, pop culture, and it's just interesting to see how they've evolved over time and how we as a culture have evolved in embracing them and how we look at them and how they've developed into what they are now as like a real legitimate, still just barely getting that credibility really in the. It's weird because it's like the media still seems to kind of demean them a little bit, or not demean them but not put them on the same level as films, even though they make way more money than movies, like for a long time now they have. Because more people game and buy more, it's more expensive to buy one game than it is to buy a movie ticket, obviously, so you just do the math. But it's still like the way that the industries, other industries, I guess, and the media look at gaming is still not at the same level as filmmaking has gotten, or music, and yet they encompass all of those industries in a sense. They encompass acting and writing and directing and then all the technical information like the stuff we're doing here, and it brings all of that together for a more for what I would argue is almost a more powerful experience than just watching a film or than um, you know, or listening to music or I don't know, it's playing basketball outside with your friends or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like the closest thing to life experience I guess you can have virtually, you know, whether it's virtual reality or with a controller. But seeing those really visceral and amazing stories now, it's just like it's cool to see how far the art form has come, and it all still comes back down to the story though, right? It's just like movies. You can have amazing visual effects and all kinds of other cool stuff, but if the writing's terrible, if the characters aren't good, you can forgive bad visuals or mediocre visuals if the story's really compelling. You know, it really moves you, and that's something that was achieved with Ghost of Tsushima. Is just, I mean, I must have teared up at least 3 or 4 times in that game, and it's not. I don't tear up for everything, but like, I always remember when I do because I love being moved and I love caring about characters and empathizing with where their plight goes, and especially when there are messages of value, when it's about love and family and self-sacrifice and really heavy like biblical level concepts, that are universal and human and good, right? Things that really will enrich other people's lives to learn about and elevate humanity. They elevate the mindset of people to care and to be better people and to be better to each other and to the world, and to die to yourself to help others, right? To even lay your life down to save someone else. Like that's just, those are as powerful concepts as you can come up with, and to see them well executed in a game like Tsushima, and to see interpersonal and family relationships and the struggles there are, and just really poignant, really mature ideas that aren't rooted in violence or negative, angry emotions, but are rooted in deeply compassionate, mature, sophisticated, elevated thinking, right? It's emotional, but it's intelligent. It's emotionally intelligent, not just one of the, you know what I mean? Not just separate, but not soap opera, but like heavier, deeper, gladiator kind of levels in some areas, you know, but that's still much more action than anything. But yeah, I don't, it's just a really beautiful, unique art form now that's extremely legitimate in what it can communicate, as much so, if not more so, because you're experiencing it, you're participating, than it is like watching a movie where you're a passive observer, you know? And that's something that's just always gonna, I don't know, it's always gonna impress me and always intrigue me, because it's unique. It's wholly different than everything else that we grew up with. I mean, outside of gaming, of course. Um, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. Random musings by Daniel. um, yeah, it's like for people who don't game, people who kind of look down on gaming or just don't get it. I really wish that I could expose them somehow or sit them down to see it, be able to, because I know they would appreciate it if they could really experience it the way, you know, if the game, because if they don't use a controller, if they're not used to playing at all and they can't get it, that learning curve would be off-putting to them, so they won't even, they won't even play. um so if we could take those people though, and that's where then it's like a movie adaptation is like the closest thing, I guess. But that's where, again, the sadness of here comes the sadness of you know, movie adaptations are almost always terrible. So of games, unfortunately, they're always terrible, because they never get people who get the content. They never adhere to, or they're not allowed sometimes to adhere to the original stories, because the game developers say you can't tell the same story again, which is very unfortunate. And I learned recently that's what happened with apparently that's what happened with Resident Evil. And that's why the movies are so terrible, is because they had to write, they could use some of the original characters, but they had to write a wholly unique story that was inspired by the games, I guess, and that's why they kind of came up with such garbage. I felt like I didn't enjoy the Resident Evil movies at all. I mean, maybe the second one was kind of the closest to a lot of what happened in Resident Evil 2, because the games are just more well written than the movies, and that's not saying too much, because I mean they're very cheeky and cheesy and kind of B-level movies, B-level horror movies in a lot of ways, for sure, especially some of the dialogue. But still, the overall story and trail of just where they go in the stories is very cool and very exciting and very compelling. And so it's like, man, I wish that Capcom would let directors really retell the stories in a more authentic way to the games. But the new Netflix little kind of mini series, mini movie that came out was okay. You know, wasn't, and that was actually made, I think, by Capcom, right? Because they used a lot of the same look and everything from the games, but just up-resed it all. You know, just higher animation quality. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't. It's based on the games, of course, and it's like an in-between story between other episodes of the games, but it's not. It wasn't a retelling of any of the original stories. But anyway, it's just interesting to see how where gaming is and where it's come from and where it's going, and it's just something that's always going to be a part of my interests in my life, I guess, just because it's something that really had an effect on me in multiple ways, as a children, as a child, and as an adult. Now seeing where it's gone, I'm so glad that I had that as a part of my life, though, to be able to. It's just one more element of not just entertainment but artistry to enjoy that I think some people don't engage with, and I think they're losing. I think they're missing out on that, because of the beauty and some of the storytelling and just some of the unique, fun experiences that are there, compared to just enjoying films, for instance. You know, I think they're missing out, but they don't know it, of course, right? Because they probably just dismiss it as juvenile or just for not for them, right? And that's kind of a shame. It's kind of a bummer. But anyway, sorry, I've been neglecting chat as I've just been rambling, just touching up things here. I know it's not, no, it's not the most exciting, but then again, I think if you guys have been for any of my streams before, you're probably aware of how I operate by now. So sorry, I'm just trying to Get this fold right. Ugh. Mm. So yeah, it definitely feels like that needs to go in a little deeper and have the skin push in just a little bit more. Okay, so what else I missed? I was one. Oh, you were one in 1999. Wow, Exodus. That's hilarious. Um, that's so crazy to. It's like I said this jokingly to a friend of mine. I'm like, people born after like 1989 just shouldn't exist. It's like because it's so weird for me to think of people being born when it's, and I'm sure it's just other people who are much older than me feel the same way. It's just like you weren't alive for this. Like you missed out on all this stuff. Like you missed out in the sense that you can learn about it now, but it's not the same as experiencing it. You know what I mean? It's like you had to be there kind of thing. And I think people can. I would hope like people could still enjoy and appreciate games and films and whatnot that existed long before they were born, as I do. But gaming is a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging because if you're, because there's so many games from those older consoles like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Nintendo 64, and etc. that had these incredible runs and incredible marketing campaigns and ridiculous commercials on TV and just bizarre celebrity endorsements and just like all kinds of stuff that just happened it was out in the zeitgeist and it was popular in like late 80s and early 90s and mid 90s and late 90s and all this stuff that happened surrounding that whole area of entertainment that was in the moment, and now you're removed from all that, so you're experiencing it kind of outside of that bubble of time. And it also, it's more effort for a lot of people to go, and those games aren't available, a lot of them aren't available online unless you're doing ROMs or whatever, or if they re-release it, but on current gen consoles, but there's the vast majority they don't. And so they'll give you kind of access, like Switch has a little Super NES virtual console, I guess, and the Wii kind of did that too, virtual console. Um, but it's still not the whole library, and it's not every game that maybe some people might want to re-experience. So it's still like the best way to do it is to get the original cartridges or discs and the original hardware, and then go through the whole rigmarole of trying to figure out how to connect it to a 4K TV now, which they finally have some decent solutions, but it's still a lot of it. The best way to do it now would be to actually go in there and, like I was talking about earlier, modify it with a little board, a little PCB board, is that what they call them, right? With a chipset on it that's designed to allow you to connect HDMI directly, that feeds directly into the video chipset and an audio output chipset in the actual hardware. But that's really delicate technical work, and a lot of people would never want to do that. It's way too much effort for most people and cost prohibitive because it's not cheap either for a lot of this. You wind up paying more actually to re-engineer some old consoles now than it would have been just to buy the original console back then. Although adjusted for inflation, who knows? I don't know. Maybe it comes out to around the same now. But it's a lot of effort though to do some of that stuff now. But you can get something to look well. It's just like a cable. I mean, it might look a little fuzzy or whatever, but there's some other ways to go around it now, which are pretty cool. But anyway, yeah. So it's just interesting to think about that, Exodus. How you were so young when a lot of the stuff was happening. It's crazy. So what blew you away? You said the awesome OST. Which original soundtrack are you referring to? Because I just blabbered on about like a billion different things. What is all that green stuff interfering with the gray mesh? Oh, so the green stuff was when I intersected two meshes. So I have this mesh, right, which the polygroups are green. I can turn that off and just see the wireframe. And then I had the previous version of this mesh, which now is slightly different, and that's intersecting with it. So I'm actually matching some of this with the other version of it. So I'm matching because I adjusted some edge loops earlier, and so I pushed everything around to where I wanted the edge loops to be, especially for like the nasolabial fold right here. And now I'm rematching some of that to the previous to the original version of this that was just, you know, last save. Um, so yeah, that's why this is intersecting like that. It's because I'm using this tool called the Z Project brush to, you know, kind of shrink wrap or like magnetize the underlying mesh that I'm currently working on that has things smoothed out so that they're lower below the surface of where I need them to be or want them to be. So that's why when I do this now, you see that it really gets black because of all the it's showing you like visually conflating all the edge loops, all the meshes. So I can turn off this, so then we just see green, and then I can bring back what I smoothed out a little too much so that it matches the surface. And I want that to go deeper in, so that's fine. Now here I can actually hold Alt and then invert that, so then it's not adding, it's subtracting. So it's you want to add, you want to have Z add on when you want to have something rise up to a certain level, and then you want to hold Alt or turn on Z sub when you want something that's above another surface to push down onto it, to match it from above to below. So that's what I'm doing here, is occasionally holding Alt, like when I have a crevice in here. I want that to go down pressed against the lower surface. Hold Alt, and then just brush in there. It's so fine at this point, though. It's so minuscule the distance that I don't think the human eye would really be able to perceive much of a difference. But collectively, I still think that there's something to be said about the impact subtle forms can have on the overall viewing experience of somebody. The collective impact is still worth it, in my opinion. Probably it's mostly worth it to me because I'm such a psychotic perfectionist. That I'm the one who's like, I'm so OCD about some things, like, no, it's not perfect yet, it's not there, right, okay, now it's there, yeah. No one gives a shit. No one would care. Like 99.9% of the population wouldn't be able to tell the difference and wouldn't care. But I care because it's Keanu fucking Reeves, man. I love Keanu. Dude's awesome. I'm slowly making my way through his comic book series called Berserker without any vowels. Check it out if you have a comic book store near you. Comic book store, enunciate, Daniel. Go check it out. It's awesome. It's genuinely like badass. It's awesome. Really cool. It's short. It's going to be a short series. I'm not a comic book nerd. Like, I'm not really into a lot of comic books, but I'll purchase, like, you know, ones that are just esoterically interesting to me. And I'm not a blind, like, just devotee to any author or any entertainer of any kind, of any ilk, of any genre of entertainment. But I like a lot of films that Keanu Reeves does. I like his personality from everything I've seen him publicly demonstrate, and how everyone speaks so highly of him, and he's very respectful toward everyone and kind. And he seems like a really decent guy who's suffered a lot in life, as well. And as anyone knows, I just had this conversation with my producer the other day, at work. Well, after work, but yeah, we were grabbing dinner and we were talking about this, and it's the sad reality is suffering is often what creates more compassionate and sensitive people. And if you look up Keanu's life, he's definitely suffered. I really feel for him, and I would feel for anyone, of course, that has gone through the things he's gone through. So that creates a certain level of sensitivity and compassion in somebody if they're a decent human being. Other people, so go in on themselves and become very depressed or self-destructive and go into really bad habits, and that manifests in all kinds of very, very sad and terrible ways. And or they would take it out on other people, or they just live a really effed up life and use people and hurt people, or just make bad choices and hurt themselves again because of and I'm speaking from not personal experience, but watching my cousin, for instance, and other people I know go through some situations like this where they'll make hard choices, and bad choices sometimes, in different areas that it would be much wiser to not make, but because of their pain or because of their frustration, or as one thing leading to another, and causing a kind of a bit of a downward spiral in what their pursuits or interests might be, or not, I shouldn't say pursuits or interests, sorry, not really correct. Their habits, I should say, right, and their habitual attitude about certain things and how they cope, especially with hardship. That's where that can lead to really self-destructive or externally destructive behavior. And sadly, that often winds up hurting the person in the end, and potentially others as they go downhill. So anyway, that could have been Keanu, but clearly he's had a really amazing, successful run in his career of acting and in his motorcycle business and in philanthropy and just being a decent person. So anyway, all that to say, he's one of the few actors that I really enjoy watching and I respect as a human being, as opposed to 99% of the other actors who I don't respect as human beings. I mean, I respect as human beings, but I don't admire them at all. I just maybe like their acting, I like their films, or like certain characters they've played. But otherwise, I don't really care because maybe I don't like a lot of what they say or do, or the fact that so many of them are like clones of each other and their opinions are all the same. So few of them seem to have their own mind when it comes to anything outside of, oh, I like this role. But that aside, I don't really particularly go out of my way to go deep into the lives of celebrities because I don't feel like most of them, like Ricky Gervais said, have too much wealth of information to impart upon the general public who are not multimillionaires living their life. Nothing wrong with million multimillionaires. I mean that their trajectory is very different from most of ours. Anyway, so yeah, I forget how I even got on this topic, but c'est la vie. Anyway, back to the chat. What else have we been saying? Chrono Trigger is kind of like what you were talking about, and the OSTs. Oh, really? Okay. Everyone's told me I should check out Chrono Trigger, so that's got to be on my list. That'll be on my list for when my Super NT gets here. Because I know that is on Super Nintendo, right? That was only on Super Nintendo, and I think they probably have ported it maybe to PlayStation 1 or 2 or something, right? Or 3 or now, I don't know. I don't know if they've continued Chrono Trigger, but I just remember hearing about it a lot. I remember my friends talking about it when I was a kid, and they were playing it on Super NES. I didn't have a Super NES. I had a Sega Genesis, and my neighbors had a Super NES. There were these wonderful Chinese neighbors that I grew up with, Andrew and Chris, and they don't live there anymore. Of course, they're all adults and married, but we still keep in touch here and there. And yeah, I remember we'd go to when we were all single digit age. We would go to each other's houses and play each other's game systems and share and have fun and argue and whatever. And yeah, those were good times. Those were good times. But yeah, they never had Chrono Trigger though, so I never got to play it. Sorry. I mean, Pandapino. I entiendes un poquito español, pero no mucho. Yo entiendo más than I speak. Terrible. It's terrible because I am Spanish, but I grew up here, so and my parents were like really wanted me to become American, to be what's the word I'm looking for? To assimilate the culture, right? To really become American, to understand what it is to be American, and blah blah blah. So because of that, and because also I was a very strong-willed, still am a very strong-willed human being, if you can't tell. I was a very opinionated child, and one of those opinions I held was I didn't want to learn Spanish. And I'm saying like 1, 2, 3-year-old. She said I would grab her face and smush her cheeks together and say in my high chair, she'd be feeding me and she'd be talking to me in Spanish, and I'd be like, "Talk right, mommy. Talk right. Talk correctly. Speak correctly," as in meaning speak in English, right? Because I was hearing too much Sesame Street, I guess, and not enough Spanish. And so when she spoke Spanish, I freaked out as a baby. And so that carried through until high school. I got interested. I took some Spanish, formally, but it didn't really stick because I wasn't using it all the time at home. Largely just because I guess I was, again, still kind of rebellious and just didn't see too much usage in knowing Spanish, and now I regret it. So I picked up a lot through osmosis, of course, because my parents speak fluently, of course, both languages, multiple languages, and I've grown to regret not them having forced me to learn Spanish when I was an infant, because I was an infant. I didn't know any better. I really wish they would have told me, "You're learning Spanish," because it's a very useful thing. But anyway, so I understand and I can pick up like every 3 words or whatever, so I can still piece together what people are talking about. But it's definitely not a forte of mine, unfortunately. So sorry. No habla mucho español. Yo siento. That's saying for those who don't speak Spanish, like me at all. I don't speak much Spanish, and I'm sorry. And it's terrible. I'm terrible. I know it's Something to be ashamed of in my book, for me. But, oh well, there could be worse things. At least I picked up some. And I know we're at time, so I'm going to bail here in a minute. Actually, I'm anxious to get back to some other stuff. I got to build some furniture here, and I gotta get my shite together. Some apartment home improvements to be made, and some errands to be run. I'm trying to have a productive day here after some relaxation and some sculpting and musing with all you wonderful people. Damon Long is asking who is on today. It's Daniel De León. Did they get the title right here, or does it say someone else? I remember people always tell me halfway through my stream or at the end of it, like, they had the wrong title the whole time. Happens. I'm just gonna get Steam Deck. It seems, yeah, I mean, exactly, dude. I was thinking the same thing, Exodus. Like, it's the ultimate portable gaming machine, because I'm totally gonna put an emulator on there and just have all the games I would have on my separate cartridges for those consoles, and I'm gonna run them on Steam Deck too, for sure. I already pre-ordered mine, or put the payment down for the pre-order, just waiting for them to, say you can pay for the whole thing now. I can't wait. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for good new tech. And with the exception of Apple, I don't buy every new iPhone, and I'm really getting sicker and sicker of Apple. So I don't really go for all new tech, but like major things, like really good new consoles, especially almost anything from Valve, because Valve, they're the opposite of Apple when it comes to releasing good new tech. They don't just have a new version every other year or every year, and they're not milking you for money like that, because they have an insane amount of money from Steam. But I love what they make, and I finally got last year I got the I want to say Vive, but it's not right, the Valve Index. And just to play Half-Life Alyx and whatever else VR I want, but that's basically all I used it for, and it's awesome. It's freaking incredible. If you have the money and the time to play Half-Life Alyx, you have a VR headset of like a Vive, or I think you can even use like what's it called, the Oculus Rift. You can play Half-Life Alyx. Play it. It's an incredible game, an incredible Half-Life game, and the first new Half-Life game in years. I forget how many years, but many years. And it's if you're a fan of Half-Life at all, play Half-Life Alyx. Amazing game, really fantastic. I loved it. If you can't tell. Anyway, let's get this fold in there. Ready? Sorry, Dean Plain. Sorry I took forever to answer your question. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? How you feeling about Marmoset over Substance? Now it has painting and texturing. Any experience? I crashed. Sorry if you answer this. Couldn't find. No, sorry, Lee Gibbons. I didn't answer until right now. I just saw that they had that come out, and I think the demo for Marmoset 4. I just haven't taken the time to dive in. But it might be time to jump ship on Substance once my current older 2021 version expires, and I guess I will be forced to upgrade to the new version that I've heard only just massive complaints about. And I'm sorry to say that, because some of my friends, some of my acquaintances in this field helped work on some of the artwork for it and helped develop it. And they're really nice people. They're fine. But it just seems like whoever truly like designed and redesigned the UI and went about the upgrade process really kind of dropped the ball, because a lot of people aren't happy with it, unfortunately. But a lot of us, including myself, loved the version right before the new one when Adobe took over. So Adobe, if you're out there, get your poop together and fix it, because it needs to be like the older version in all the good ways, and you kind of broke it, and a lot of us aren't happy and aren't using the new version because of that, like a lot. And I haven't needed to touch Substance in a while on my machine, because I've been working with DD, so I don't even know if they've made any improvements yet. So I'll put that caveat out there in case they have made improvements and have fixed it. But all I've heard initially when it launched was that it was terrible and broken, and not what people wanted, unfortunately. Not what they liked about the last versions. So yeah, Marmoset might be my jumping off moment, right? This might be the next time where next couple months maybe I'll be working in Marmoset instead of Substance. I don't know if they're really comparable at this point. I have to ask my buddy. Another friend of mine works for development with Marmoset Toolbag, so I'll have to ask him what his take is. I'm sure he'll be biased, but Apple is poo. Yeah. Luis Enrique. Hi, Daniel from Brazil. Hola. How's Brazil doing? How you guys doing down there? Did you guys have an earthquake recently? I feel like that might have happened, or something terrible happened down there. how are you guys doing with the whole pandemic lockdown BS and frustrations that everyone's going through with? I mean, man, Australia's really going through a hard time right now. Jeez, you guys seen that? And I mean, of course, Afghanistan, but I don't want to even get into that. That's just horrible, and I'm worried for the world now because of that. Whew. It's just what a mess. What an absolute mess. The last thing I want to see is anyone going to war. Like we don't need another world war, and I'm really that's on my mind now because of Afghanistan and being buddy with China and Russia. It's pretty scary. I know I'm not living in fear, kind of scared. It's concerning. It's like, geez, man, it's not good. Anyway, sorry, really heavy topics, but something that will affect us all probably, unfortunately. Interesting. Thanks for the reply. Sure thing, man. Or Miss. I don't know. Lee is a unisex name, right? Probably dude, I'm guessing. Anyway, okay, we're at 4:11. I know we have another gentleman on at 5, so I should get going here. Any last minute questions or comments? Love or hate? Bring it. Really, SP21 UI sucks. Seems like Adobe's just screwed and messed up. Yeah. Unfortunately, Exodus, yes. So Exodus, wait, you said something about Blow Me Away was an awesome OST. Are you talking about Ghost of Tsushima? Or are you talking about Or in the Blind Forest? Both have amazing soundtracks. I highly recommend both. Lee, yeah, shoot your quick question. Lee's a dude, right? I remember we've talked before. I'm just brain farting because it's been a busy couple weeks. Whoa, what is that? Wow, when did that happen? I should have, this is another thing, a good note to myself to do, and a good recommendation for anyone else watching. To avoid crap like this, an easier way to fix it is to have a morph target saved. And I don't think I have a morph target saved on this from whenever ago. Oh, actually I do. Hey, look at that. Well, let's see if I can morph target this back to where it should be. It's the moment of truth, because this morph target may be from too long ago or from some other time, or I don't know. There might be some issue here, but let's see if that works. Because requires a valid morph target. Well, it has a morph target saved unless it needs to be at this level. No, what about it? Sometimes it seems to be the subdivision level. I'm not a morph target expert. But yeah, I think that morph target's not valid. Oh, wait. Aha! I was wrong. But why is it... Wow, where is this morph target saved from? Like, what? Oh, this is probably from way back. Okay, so... Quick way to fix this. Okay, I got it. Move. Let's bring it down to a lower sub D level. Hold shift and smooth. Bring it down to the lowest. Good. Go up to 4 again. Smooth. 3, 2, 5. It's like a scar. All right, so that's done. Now I'm just gonna Z project. Let's turn it off. Leave that on. All right, sorry, Lee. What is your question? In ZBrush, I have I have a shoulder pad with subdivs unwrapped. How do I mirror and keep all the UVs and subdivisions? Yeah, I'm here all the time. Okay, thought so. Sorry. Free subdivs is okay. So you're not free. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Lee. I'm sorry. Totally brain farted that. I never recognize your name. In ZBrush, shoulder pad with subdivision unwrapped. How do I mirror? Okay, so you want to what you're asking, I'm assuming now from what I'm gathering, is you have one shoulder pad and you want to basically mirror it to be exactly symmetrical on the other side. Do you want to duplicate it, right? You want a copy of it over here, right? So we'll have the same UVs and it'll retain everything in subdivisions. The easiest way to do that that I'm aware of at this point is to, if you've subdivided it up go to, okay, cool. Go to your highest subdivision level. First of all, duplicate it, right? So always do that. Whenever you have something you're going to mess with and it may be irreparably changed, always duplicate it. Hide the original if you need to or whatever, but duplicate it. Excuse me. Breakfast burrito. Duplicate it. Turn off the other one. And then go to your high subdivision level. Delete lower subdivision levels altogether. Then mirror it, right? So you got to go to mirror. Could be even mirror and weld, doesn't matter. Just make sure that it doesn't weld to itself or anything. It just needs to mirror over so that then if it was here, it'll be over here now, and you won't see it here. It won't duplicate it and mirror it. You just want it to be over here. So then once that's there, turn on your other one again so you can see and make sure that they look correct. And then with this one, now that you've mirrored it over, go to, I should just show you. I'm telling you as if I'm telling you if I can't show you. I'm sorry. But then once you've mirrored it over there, you just want to reconstruct subdivision levels, and then there you go, done. I think Ryan's Tools, if I'm not mistaken, has an ability to mirror and weld now without needing to. It does it with subdivision levels, which is awesome. So if I'm not mistaken now, I think you can do that with this plugin. So get Ryan's Tools. It's Ryan Kittleston. He'll be streaming with us soon, actually. From what I've understood, he just was invited. He was just brought on board to the streamers team. So you'll be seeing him on here eventually, which is awesome. Because I don't think I've ever seen his face. So I'm really curious to see what it looks like. And then also just to sit at his feet virtually and learn about his understandings and the depths of ZBrush's wondrous abilities and faults. So yeah, mirror and weld. I think you can use any of these if I'm not mistaken, and they will work without you needing to delete lower subdivision levels. But here, I'll show you really quick, but let me save this now because I feel like we're at a good stopping place now. I think we're good for now. Didn't get the facial details yet, the like pore detail, but we got, got a lot of the landmarks fixed up here, which is great. So we're in a good place. I feel like we're good. Good for now. All right. So, do a quick save again. I think I probably just did that, but whatever. And then I will just drop it a few sub-Ds because it makes it faster and easier to save. Save over that last one. Actually, I should delete that morph target that's useless now that I know. And now I'll save a morph target, and I'll save it at the highest, I guess. Yeah, I'll save it at the highest. Maybe not. Maybe that's not wise. Maybe I should do it at like at least. I don't know. That's a good question. What is best practices for saving a morph target when you have multiple subdivision levels? Like, maybe something I should pose to Mr. Gabry. But I'll try it here at 5 instead. Store morph target. And now I'll save it again. Sorry, I'm going to redo this quick. And then I'll quick save. And then I'll show you the shoulder pad trick just so we're cool. Yeah, free subdiv doesn't work. You need to delete subdivision levels. That's what you need to do. Go to highest one and delete. And then reconstruct. That should work. Unless you have triangles in it. Okay. And only reconstruct to one subdivision level down. That could be an issue with your mesh then. In that you might have triangles after a certain point, maybe? So let's just do this here with this sphere. We'll use the floor as a reference point. I'm not sure we can just It's just like let's just make this a blob. Let's say this is a person. And there are the arms. This is an extremely realistic person, just so you know. They're in a Fall Guy suit that got messed up. I don't know why that came to mind because of the oblong shape. I haven't played that game in forever, but it was fun to play with friends. That's a pure, innocent, fun game that I was thinking about. That's just goofy and fun, and there's nothing crazy or violent about it. It's fun to play with friends. Okay. So you got a shoulder pad. So we want to add this. So let's just say this is a shoulder pad for argument's sake. And we're going to divide this up. So now we got 6 subdivision levels. So now you're like, I want this over there. I want this over there, but I can't mirror it. And so like, yeah, if we just want to do mirror, right here's the button I pulled it out. Say mirror, it'll say this function cannot be applied to a mesh with multiple subdivision levels. Boo. So they should adopt, my petition is that they should adopt his tools as standards in ZBrush. But if we do this with Ryan's tools and we just say, yeah, well, I want to take this and I want to flip it over on the x-axis. Bam! It's done, which is awesome. But let's say you don't have Ryan's tools and you don't want to go download it, which I don't know why you wouldn't. That's like saying you don't like puppies or chocolate or rainbows or a sunset. You're crazy. But if for some reason you have a crazy and you don't like those things and you don't want to go download Ryan's tools, the other thing you can do is the original technique, which is here. I mean, you probably want to go into geometry because I pulled everything out into my UI, but you want to delete lower, which means delete lower subdivision level. So now you have only the highest subdivision level. And now you can mirror it. Ta-da! But you don't have your subdivision level. So you come over here to geometry, say reconstruct, 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 until you can't reconstruct any further. Full reconstructions. Now it's even lower, actually, than what we started with. So now you have your full subdivisions, and it's mirrored over there. And of course, you wanted to, before you did that, you should have duplicated it so that you'd have it on the other side too. But that's what I do. That's what I recommend. Sorry, I was talking and not reading the chat while you're probably like, it's not working. Let's see. It's getting downloaded. Okay, nice, thank you. Hello from Jamaica. Hello from LA. Yeah, so then just download Ryan's tools and you'll be loving life in ZBrush far more than you are now. Trust me. And Ryan, if you could send that check to my apartment today, that'd be great. Thank you. I'm doing free promotion for him because it's so useful. Didn't know you had to hit reconstruct multiple times. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's another simple thing I guess people don't realize. You can keep hitting reconstruct subdivision until it will find a point where it cannot reconstruct any more quads. If you have a triangle anywhere along that chain, that's the stopping point, right? Because you can't reconstruct you can't turn a triangle into anything smaller than a triangle, right? So that'll be your stopping point. So if your mesh anywhere in it has a triangle at its lowest subdivision level, and you go all the way up to its highest and delete, even if that lowest subdivision level is just three subdivisions up, because you added a triangle when you were making it after you went above a certain level and you have no lower levels, you won't be able to go past that level. So just FYI. But yeah, so there you go. All right, people, thanks for hanging out. I have to bounce, and I hope this was fun and helpful for as many people as it could be. I will be back in another 2 weeks, I believe, to continue on Mr. Reeves, and we will finish, because I'm pretty happy with where things are now. We will go in for pore skin detail, the fine micro detail of the human skin, and then the really cool part will be doing the body and the pose and the whole badass moment when he does that sick triple kick to end the life of a evil security guard. So, all right, guys. Take care. Be safe. Be well. Be happy. Get outside. Get some sun. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Bye.